Hi everyone! Today we're going to be learning about the parts of a scientific paper. Many of you have written these before, but even if it's your first time, you're going to be getting good information to set you on the right track to write scientific papers in your science class. Now, what is a scientific paper? This is a little more formal than the lab reports you may have written in other classes. I'm going to show you an example of one. So right here I have a scientific paper from the Journal of Plankton Research. And scientists, when they conduct a study out in the real world, they publish their findings in different journals so that other scientists can read them. And if other scientists find this data important and find these conclusions good, they'll then start referencing those conclusions in other types of research until you become famous and credited with that idea. And sometimes you might even become so famous that you become a household name. So this journal article was from a study on the ecology of brine shrimp in the Yucatan of Mexico. And if you can look, it's quite long, and we have these different parts in our paper that I'm going to be talking about what goes in each part. So going back to our main screen, the first part of your scientific paper is your title. Your title is going to be very straightforward, and you want to explain exactly what the experiment tested. Scientific papers are not the place for a lot of creativity. We save that for English class when you're writing novels and poems. Since they're so long and people often search for them by the title, we want to straightforward explain what we were testing. An example, let's say you did an experiment on how light affects brine shrimp hatching. A perfectly good title would be The Effect of Light on Brine Shrimp Hatching. It tells the reader exactly what this paper is about. Names of group members is pretty self-explanatory, but remember to put first and last names. So often people forget to put the names of the group members, but you want credit for your work. So make sure to put the first and last name of everyone involved in the study. The abstract. This is a part you may have not heard of before science class. The abstract is a summary of the entire paper. It's kind of like the back cover of a book, and it should be about one paragraph. I give people the guideline that when you're writing as high school scientists, right now when you're writing your abstract, it should be about one paragraph, and a good rule of thumb is that about one sentence should be summing up the introduction, about one or two sentences should be summing up the methods, one or two sentences should be summing up the results, and then one or two sentences should be summing up the main ideas of the discussion, and that'll get you to about a paragraph in length. Even though the abstract comes at the beginning, that's so it's like a blurb or a teaser, and you kind of have to wait until you're done the whole paper to write the abstract since it is a summary. After the abstract, we have the introduction, and the introduction gives background information on the topic. It also explains the hypothesis and why you're doing the experiment. And when I say why you're doing the experiment, we don't put things in there like Mrs. Walton told us to do this lab, or we had to do this lab for our science class. You want to be talking to a broad general audience. Background information might include stuff like, for example, if you're writing a paper on how light affects brine shrimp hatching, you might tell someone what brine shrimp are. You might tell someone what things are known to affect their hatching besides just light. You might tell people about why light might affect things, why you think that. But what you don't want to put in the introduction, you don't want to talk about the methods, results, or discussion. We save those each for their own section. We just want background information about the topic and why you're doing the experiment, aka your hypothesis. What are you trying to test? Those are the two things that should be in there. At this stage in your career, one paragraph, maybe two, is good enough for the introduction. Methods. This is a detailed procedure. You often hear it called methods and materials. This is written in sentences. If I can spell that sentence. Yay, autocorrect. This is written in sentences. And I say that specifically with the methods. The entire paper should be written in sentences. But sometimes you see on lab procedures that people write stuff in bullet points, like step 1, do this, step 2, do that. We don't do that in our formal scientific paper. If you look at the example I showed you in the methods section, they write in sentences and in paragraph form. You want this to be so detailed that somebody could repeat the experiment in a different setting. So you want to include the materials you used. You want to include where you did the lab, how long it ran, all of that stuff so someone could follow and redo the exact same experiment. And that's because scientists want their experiments to be repeatable. If someone really likes what you found, they're going to go try it out for themselves and see if they got the same result. So they need that detail. The results section, at this point in your careers, the results section should be limited to mainly data tables, graphs, and charts with short explanations of the data. All you're really talking about in the results section is the data. So you might make a data table and include a title in your legend about what the table's about, include your graph with your title and your legend, but you don't need a whole lot of other text besides a short explanation of what is actually in the data. You save all your conclusions for the discussion. And the discussion is the most important part of your paper. So many people write beautiful scientific papers and then they peter out at the discussion and they leave it really weak with just a sentence or two. This is your conclusion. This is the meat and potatoes of your whole paper. This is everything you learned from this study. So what goes in a conclusion? You should have your claim, a sentence claiming whether or not your data supports your hypothesis or if it does not agree with your hypothesis. You should connect your claim to the evidence. So connect that claim to the data. What data supports your claim? Give numbers and specific facts that you found from your results section. And then you should have a reasoning, which reasoning is your sentence or your bridge connecting the evidence to the claim. Why does that data support your claim? Other things you want to put in your discussion? Any errors with the lab. So if there was something that you think affected your data or you think you need to repeat or do further testing on, you want to talk about it here in your discussion. All of this is going to be typed up in one document. Make sure you include the headings on each of the sections, the abstract, introduction, methods, results, and discussion. And then those are pretty much all the things you need to know. If you have any questions, prepare them, bring them to class, and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you for watching.